Was saying, sorry, you and your girlfriend broke up. A friend of mine told me many years ago, I don't know even which friend it was. He said, whenever you break up with somebody, it just means you'll get to see another woman naked at some point. He was trying to make me feel better, but I don't think it worked. Although I did remember his advice. Those are comforting words, right? Yeah. Yeah, I was on Zoom earlier, and instead of using the computer microphone, which Zoom automatically does, I used the good microphone, and then I didn't check the microphone, which I usually do. So I picked the wrong day not to check the microphone to see which one it was, but OBS decided to stop using it because Zoom was using it, and so forth. We were poly anyway. Yeah, breaking up with somebody when you're poly is confusing, but okay. And so forth. But you should be able to hear me now. In fact, I know you can hear me now. You should chess box Hikaru. No, boxing is a horrific sport, and it shouldn't be allowed. You shouldn't punch other people. You shouldn't think like that. You should be nice to everybody. Oh, you're good at lip reading? Okay. Did you read that? Yeah, boxing is bad. You shouldn't like when people fight and get hurt. And so forth. If it's a really friendly punch, yeah. It's a barbaric sport. Go Belgium. Football is also barbaric, but in a good way. So I've never used Classroom before on chess.com, but they got rid of live chess, so I had to find some way to put PGNs in and stuff, and I did. And the board seems to be correct. I didn't have to finagle with the board. The games are there, so it should work. I'm going to try to spend 15 to 20 minutes per game, and I have 6 games. And I'll answer questions and such. Thanks, Smokey, for the sub. Yeah. Learn analysis. Yeah. Classroom seems to be fine. I don't see any issues yet. Looks like analysis. So forth. So the streams from now on are going to be different than they were before. Most of my streams are going to be instructive, like this one. This will be a typical stream. Karen will usually stream with me, and she'll probably ask questions and stuff. She's just busy today because she has a couple of poker tournaments she's playing in. One starts next week, and one's next month. And the entry fees are pretty steep, and she wants to do well. So she's been doing a lot of poker lately, practicing and reading and doing work and classes and playing online and stuff. So to practice for the tournament. Because she's been playing poker for about 1.5 years. And for the first year and 3 months, it was just cash games. We're just playing 1-2 or 1-3. And now she's getting into tournaments, and she's playing in some tournaments, but not a lot of tournament experience. So she's getting some online for tournaments that have small entry fees. And then we have a casino that's a little less than 3 hours from us in North Carolina, and they have WSOP circuit events sometimes. So she's preparing for that. And then she's going to Vegas next month for the WPT Women's Championship. And so forth. Also, I'm going to be insulting the audience less. I'll still insult you a little bit. And I'll answer questions in the chat that are related to the instruction. So today's lecture or class or stream is going to be focused on Sicilian games where I had the black pieces. 95% of my Sicilians I have black. I occasionally have white in the Sicilian, but I don't play E4 in tournaments very often. So even when I play e4, only like 1 game out of 5 is a Sicilian. People play French, Carol-Can, and Scandinavian, and e5 on move 1, so forth. And when I'm black, I mainly play the Sicilian against e4, although I do play other things. So in the 90s, when I was playing the Sicilian more than other openings, I found some games I played. Some of them you've seen, and some you haven't seen. And for some of you haven't seen any of them because you're not watching me 24 hours a day on the internet. Oh, Hype Train is close. That means I missed something. I want to thank people who donate. Dobragab, 100 centidues. Yay. Yeah, I am probably better at nonsense, but I've had enough of that. I'm pretty good at instructing and talking about my games and openings I play and other people's games if I know them. Enzian Hero, 200 centidues. Hooray. The train is incoming. Thanks for the support. I'm not on Chess TV today, so there won't be a big crowd. But even if you miss some of my streams, they're all on YouTube, and the clips are on YouTube and so forth. Mainly and so forth. Okay, so my first game is, again, all these games are from the 90s. They were played between 1993, 1999, and they're in chronological order. So the first 3 are from 93, and then the last one's from 99. Thanks, Alarmek, for subscribing. Hello. I've never been to Chessable, so I don't know. Okay. So Sicilian. So this is Mike Skidmore. He's from a chess family. He was a player. Possibly he got to expert. I don't think so, but maybe. And his daughter, also a player expert, Jennifer Skidmore. And they've been integral in chess in Michigan for the last 40 years, organizing tournaments and being on the board of the Michigan Chess Association, so forth. So this was played in 93. So all these games were played when I was pretty good. I would say between 93 to 99 was pretty much my peak chess years as far as strength. I was still okay in the early 2000s, I guess. But 93 to 99, I was pretty good. And this guy's an A player. He's like 1800 or something. Okay, and he played bishop b5. Now, the reason that I play e6, because super GMs play e6 or g6, is in the New York Open in the mid-'80s to late '80s, thanks, Dankel, for the sub, I played bishop b5 against Jay Whitehead, and he played e6 and just beat the bejesus out of me. And I wasn't playing the Sicilian with black at that point. So when I started playing the Sicilian, since I got crushed so badly by e6 when I was white, I decided to play it as black. Okay, so they can take or play knight c3 or play d4 or castle. I faced all of those. He castled. Knight ge7. d3 is not really a move that I know. Rook e1 is a common move. d4 is a common move. Some people play b3 here or c3. So I'm not familiar with d3. And could save his bishop if he wanted, but he traded. And this doesn't give black any problems. Black has the 2 bishops, and white doesn't really have a hope for an advantage. And he played a very early e5, which isn't very good, just a target. And now this game was played in 1993, so you can forgive me for my next move. What does the engine say? The engine doesn't play my next move, but I mean, obviously it's fine. f6. It thinks it gives away most of my advantage. Doesn't like that move. Takes. Still says that black's better. Knight e4 is correct. Bishop e7. And not only do I have the 2 bishops, but I have 2 center pawns to 1, so I can advance in the center. And I have the open F file for my rook, which is the purpose of F6 is to get the F file for my rook. Now, the reason you shouldn't play F6 in the never play F6 rule is it weakens the white squares, particularly around your king. In this position, F6 doesn't do that because I have a white squared bishop and he doesn't. And my pawns are on white squares in the center. So I don't really have white square weaknesses. I don't really have any weaknesses. My two pawns and my third pawn in the center are defending a lot of squares. My rook is defending all these squares. My knight's aimed at the center. And my bishop, if I play d5 and e5, can go to g4, or I can move my b pawn and play bishop b7 and fianchetto. So I'm not really weakening any kind of squares. Then ZL1 Corvette. Okay, my opponent played bishop g5. That's actually the engine move. Get rid of my two bishops. I played d5. He has to take my bishop. He can't play knight takes c5 because my bishop's pinned, so I'd lose my queen. But then his bishop on g5 isn't sufficiently defended, so I just win a bishop. So he has to play bishop takes e7. I have to take with the queen to defend my c-pawn. And he played knight c3. And the engine doesn't like that. It wants to play knight g3. I like when my knights are together, too. They control a lot of squares. Makes the king much safer. Now, if you're a lower-rated player, you get attracted by tricky threats. Thanks the worst in chess for the 3 subs. And so knight c3 threatens knight takes d5 because my e-pawn's pinned. And knight g3 doesn't threaten anything, so a low-rated player will tend to make a threat. Unfortunately, the knight on c3 isn't very good. Once I stop knight takes d5, his knight can't go anywhere. If his knight's on g3, he has a really good defense for his king because I have the open F file for my rook. So knight c3 is just not as good. Okay, I played queen f6. The engine likes black again. He played h3. You shouldn't move a pawn in front of your king. That makes your king worse. So the engine doesn't like that move. I played knight to d4. Now, obviously, if he takes my knight, I can throw in queen takes f2 check. If he doesn't take my knight, then I'm attacking f3 a lot. So I'm going to win a pawn and ruin his pawn structure. So he only has one move, rook e3. And he played rook e3. Engine agrees. Okay? And I played bishop d7, get my bishop out, get my rook out. And in this position, he made a terrible blunder. And the engine doesn't like bishop d7. It wants me to move my b pawn and fianchetto my bishop, I guess. And it says after queen d2, the position's equal. And my opponent made a double question mark move here. And I think I know why he played it. I think he forgot about queen takes f2 check. And he played knight takes d4. Now this is strange because this is a slow game and he's 1800. So that's a pretty bad blunder for him. And I think what he was thinking, like in his mind, was, oh no, this wins a piece. Haha, I tricked you, rook f3. And once he saw takes rook f3, he was attracted to that because it looks like I win a piece and I don't. So he liked that. That's what I think was happening in his mind. He just forgot about queen takes f2 check. Zwischenzug. And then I can take the rook. I'm up the exchange and a pawn. The game is basically over, but there was a nice tactic at the end too. Played knight f3, saving his knight. I played bishop c6. And he made a further blunder, although it doesn't really matter here. Played queen d2, and then his queen is defended by his knight. So I have a relatively simple tactic, which I'm sure most of you can find. I'll give you guys a few seconds. If you're rated like under 1400, this is a tactic you may or may not see in a game. If you're rated over 1700, you'll almost certainly see this in a game. If it's a puzzle and the position pops up, then you'll be like, oh, okay, because it's a puzzle, so you look for some kind of tactic. Anyway, the answer, which I'm sure most of you got, is rook takes f3, winning another piece. So now he doesn't have any pieces left, so he resigned because he's down a rook. And a pawn, but I don't think the pawn matters very much. Might matter a little. So that game, my opponent was outplayed in the opening and middle game, and I got a nice position. Then I let him back in the game by not pressing correctly, and then he made 2 tactical blunders. And the ebb and the flow of the game, where you go up and down in like plus 0.4, equal, minus 0.2, plus 0.3, and the engine says, you guys don't play so good. You guys aren't Magnus Carlsen. You guys, white's better, black's better, it's equal, it's random. In those kinds of games, the person who wins doesn't make any blunders, and the person who loses makes 1 or 2 blunders, and occasionally more. But after you've blundered twice, it's really hard to blunder again because you're so lost. So you go from incredibly lost to very incredibly lost. And so that's what happened. I didn't make any blunders. I just didn't play accurately. And he didn't play accurately. So with the white pieces, he never was better. He was equal or worse. And then he made these tactical mistakes when he was under some pressure. But it's important to note when your opponent plays f6, when you have a pawn on e5, and those pawns get traded, black has this open f-file for the rook, which is something I quite like. And one of the reasons I played this variation against the Sicilian, the Moscow or Rossolimo, I don't know. I know that bishop b5 check after d6 and bishop b5 after knight c6, one's the Rossolimo and one's the Moscow, but I have no idea which one. Like after d6, bishop b5, that's called something, and knight c6, bishop b5 is called something else. But I don't know which is which. One's the Moscow, one's the Rossolimo. And sometimes they can transpose. Like I could play d6 here. Yeah, Moscow has d6. Let's see, in 1992 this game was played in 93 though. What, was Magnus alive? He was alive. Yeah, in 93 I was better than Magnus because I think he was 3. But it was close. All right, good chat. Okay, so that's the first game I wanted to show you. Okay, in the next game, I'm also black because I'm black in every game. This game is more interesting. That game you might have been like, And you could put a marker for game 2 if you'd like to. Somebody put a marker for game 1. That was nice of them. And this game I've shown several times in videos, so you may have seen it. This was also played in 1993. And this is from another chess family, the Arganian family. The player I'm playing here is an expert, but he later became a master. And his dad was an A player or B player, depending on what year it was. I don't think his dad ever got to expert. I don't think so. His dad was usually in the 1700s or 1800s. And this guy, Dave Arganian, his dad's also Dave Arganian. He's Dave G. Arganian. It's a little different. They're from Lansing. So I played them I don't think I played the dad, but I played them in Michigan. Might have played the dad, I don't know. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So another Sicilian. And my opponent played the open Sicilian, d4. And in my chess career, if you can call it a career, I've played knight f6 and g6. And basically it depended like what year it was. Some years I just played g6. Some years I played just knight f6, and then some I played both. In 93, I was probably after my g6 phase. I was playing knight f6 and d6. The classical Sicilian. The two most common moves at the grandmaster level are bishop c4, which is the Sozin. I can't say Sozin. Why do I say Sozin? What's wrong with me? Or bishop g5, which is the Richter-Rauser. And then at the lower levels, other moves are played, but they're less common at the top levels. Okay, my opponent played bishop g5, the Richter-Rauser. And I've had this position in slow tournaments probably more than 40 times. And I used to play bishop e7, which you'll see, and currently I play a6. And those are the only two moves I've played. Those are the two most common moves. This is my bishop e7 phase, 1993. He castled, and I castled. And in this position, almost every game I've played in this position, before and after this game, my opponent played the move f4. That's what I faced the most. And that's probably the most common move. And another move that's quite common, which I've only faced in this game, I've never faced it otherwise, is knight b3. And in the early 90s, there was a match between Karpov and Short. It was the FIDE. It was the final match before the World Championship. So the winner of the match would play Kasparov for the World Championship. That happened to be Short. And Short lost to Kasparov in their World Championship match, which FIDE eventually didn't recognize, and they played their own match. But that's another story. And this was the final game of the Short-Karpov match. Short was up by 1 point, and Karpov needed to win with black. Karpov, not normally playing open Sicilian with black, but he was forced to win. And Nigel played knight b3, like my opponent did, and Nigel won a very nice game. And it was the last game of the match. Nigel won the match, and so forth. And that was played between 91 and 94, if I remember correctly. I'm not saying I remember correctly, but if I do, somewhere in there, somewhere around this game. Okay, now the point of knight b3 is to get out the way, move. You're getting out of the way of the queen and rook. So what white wants to do is white wants to play bishop takes f6. And if you take with the bishop, then the d pawn is hanging. In the game, Short-Karpov, that I referenced a few minutes ago, Karpov played a6, which is one of the main moves. Bishop takes f6. The pawn sacrifice is considered unsound, so Karpov played gf. And this is an interesting position. It's double-edged. Black has two bishops. Black has more center pawns. Opposite side castling. A pretty good variation if you need to win with black. But it's not Karpov's kind of position. It's Nigel's kind of position. Nigel having white here, that's very Nigel-esque. Karpov having black here, that's just not who he is. He doesn't play black in these positions. So he ended up getting outplayed and he lost. In my opinion, more accurate than a6, so you don't have to play gf, is queen b6. And the point of queen b6 is to attack the f-pawn, and when white does something about it, then we play rook to d8. So for example, if white tries to win a pawn, bishop f6, queen d6, he doesn't win a pawn because f2 is hanging. And while white is doing something about that, we have time to play rook d8 and defend our pawn, so we're not forced to play g takes f6. Okay, my opponent played f3, and I played rook to d8. And probably in 1993, I knew a little bit more theory than this, but I mean, now I don't know anything. I don't play bishop e7 anymore. I haven't studied this line in 25 years. I could get to here still, but then if somebody played the main move, I wouldn't even know. Okay, now my opponent played badly. He played what I call low-rated player moves. These are moves that are attractive to low-rated players. So if you're a low-rated player, you like to attack things. If you're a high-rated player, you like to improve your pieces. So my opponent was low-rated than me, so he liked to attack things. So king b1 is a normal kind of move. Probably h4 is. And my opponent played bishop e3, which attacks my queen. And then he did it again. He played knight b5, which doesn't make any sense. It attacks my queen, but you don't want your knight on b5. And I moved my queen. And now this pressure that he had over here is gone. His knight's off of c3. It's on this terrible square, letting me gain tempi. And this is just good for black. So black's already better. Okay, he played queen f2. And I played d5 because his knight's not on c3, so I can play d5. Hooray! I already have a threat. He took. I took with the knight. And he played bishop c5. And this position, black already has a big advantage. Engine says black's winning. Bishop g5 check, which is correct. And king b1. And now, I played a move which isn't the best, but it's fine. The best move is b6, kicking his bishop out, and then my bishop can get developed somewhere. But I played a6, which is okay. Still gives me a crushing position. And he can't play knight c3 because I take the knight with check and his rook is hanging. So he plays c4, which is the engine move. Engine agrees. I took. He took. I took. And he took. Okay. So far, I've played great. And my USCF rating at this point in time is like 2643. I was number 11 or so in the country by USCF rating. And here I played very speculative pawn sacrifice, which the engine agrees with is good for black, but it prefers just playing the simple bishop f5 check. Now, obviously, I have an attack on his king, a long-term attack, and he doesn't have an attack on my king. He's got nothing near my king. My king's incredibly safe. His king, I have this open A file. I have an open diagonal to his king, and my king is just safe. So I have like a free attack. Okay. I played d4, which the engine says is fine. And I'm sacrificing a pawn so I can open up more lines to his king. He took, which is fine. I took, he took, and I played bishop to e6, threatening his a2 pawn. And I remember thinking for many years, should he play a3 or b3? And what's funny is, like, I haven't looked this with an engine for a long time. Engines are better now than 20 years ago. And this engine, Stockfish 15, wants to play a4, which I didn't think of. But it really likes black's position, because even though I'm down a pawn, I just have an attack on his king, and my king is perfectly safe. So it really likes black's position. Okay, he played b3, and here I went totally insane. So in this position, I thought a few moves ahead, and my thinking was queen f4, and the engine says queen f4 is fine. g3 attacking my queen, and it says that's fine. Now I have to go to d6 or c7, and I have a big advantage. According to the engine, queen d6 is +2 for black. You know, my queen can go to a3, so forth. Instead, I played queen f5 check, which was my intention when I played queen f4. I said, okay, he'll play g3, I'll play queen f5 check, he'll play bishop to d3, and I'll play queen a5 with my queen and rook lined up on the a file, and probably threatening bishop takes b3. And I remember I played queen a5, my hand was still on my queen, and then I was like, oh, so I put my queen back on f5. And I said, well, I can't play queen a5. So my other option is to play queen h3, which is, what the hell's my queen doing on h3? So I calculated a little bit, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm playing queen a5 and sacking all my pieces. So it was a very fortuitous circumstance for me that this is the most interesting game ever, because I didn't see bishop b6. I saw bishop b6 when I was already playing queen a5, and then I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to allow bishop b6. Now, here's what's funny. If he doesn't play bishop b6, if he plays any other move, the engine says I'm completely winning. And I didn't see bishop b6 when I played queen f4 and when I played queen f5. I was thinking about how I'm attacking, and look at me, I'm Sandra Oh. And okay, so he played bishop b6, and the engine says white is slightly better. Slightly. Okay, so queen a3, he took my rook, engine agrees, and then I don't take his bishop back, I play bishop b3. So now I'm down a full rook, but I have a very aggressive position. The engine says he should play queen to b2. I take this with check. He has to play king to a1. If he plays king c2, this is actually forced checkmate. You can see my bishops, or, you know. One of my bishops is so good it moves like a knight. So he has to play king a1, which looks very scary. And now the engine says I should take this queen and then take this bishop, and it says white's slightly better. White's up in exchange for a pawn. He can't play rook here because I have bishop f6 check. So probably this is a draw. Probably. Okay, my opponent played the more obvious move, bishop takes g5. And now he's up a rook and a bishop, which is a lot. This isn't a 1 minute game. This is a serious game. Okay, and the engine says this should be a draw now. I checked. And he has to play king c2. And this position, I've lectured on many times, just this position here. Black only has one move here, otherwise white's winning. And you have to understand not only what you want to do, you have to understand what your opponent wants to do. And what white wants to do is saunter his king over to g2, because it's lost his efficacy over here. The king has to run away. So if I blindly check the king, I'm checking him into safety. I want his king to be on the queen's side for the rest of the game. I can't afford to have his king running away. I don't have enough firepower. I don't have a dark squared bishop. So I can't stop this unless I stop it. And after this move, the engine says it's equal. Okay, so I played queen b4, which a couple people suggested in the chat. And now the engine says this is a draw with correct play. It says rook b1 is a draw and bishop e4 is a draw. Otherwise, it says I'm doing well. It says that black is much better unless white plays one of these moves. So this is pretty clearly a draw if we go into the main line, which is takes, takes, check, king d1, takes, takes, takes here. This is just completely drawn. I have to take this so I'm not worse. I think if I save my B pawn and he saves his H pawn, I'll probably lose my B pawn eventually and be worse. But if I just take this, this is just a dead draw. That's the engine line if he plays rook B1. Okay, he played bishop E4, which is the other engine move. Also good. Okay, I played bishop B3 check, the only move. Now he made a mistake. And the correct move isn't a move a lot of you would play. A lot of you would play what my opponent did. The correct move is to follow my rule no matter how insane it is. There's only one way to follow my rule here. Always play king B1. Walking into the discovered check. That's the only move that equalizes. Now, I can draw by doing this, which obviously I'm not going to do. Bishop D5 check also draws. It's the same perp. And I can also play this position. Bishop C2 double check. King takes. Rook A2 check. King D3. Rook takes F2. And now I've won his queen, but he has a rook and two bishops for my queen. And after rook D2, the engine says this is a draw because I should perpetual check him. If somehow his king gets to safety, he just has a rook and two bishops for a queen. And it says I have like 50 perpetuals here. Everything's a perpetual, but I can't win. Now, he didn't play king B1 because, first of all, king B1 looks crazy. Second of all, some people, possibly him, would say king B1, black has a draw, I'm up a rook and a bishop, so I don't want to draw. Reasonable. So he played king D3 instead. I thought he did. Let's see. Okay, king D3. It's Raj. Go Raj. Okay. So now black's actually better. Bishop C4 check. Now here's what's funny. The engine wants to play king D4. And I'm not kidding. And it says I win his queen. Check in here. And it says black is slightly better or it's equal. I guess rook D8 check is equal. I can't win his bishop on D8. So then the game would end in a draw. Yeah, this is a perpetual again. Incredible. King D4 is the best move. Nobody would play king D4 and like have their queen skewered. So he played king E3. Queen C5 check. Now, he can't move his king because then I save my bishop. In the other variation where he played king D4, he took my bishop. So now he's losing material-wise. So he has to play rook D4. I take with check. He has one legal move. F4. I put him in check. And in this position, he can play rook D3 or bishop D3. It turns out it's the same. He can't play king D2 because the engine announces mate here. It's pretty reasonable that white's getting mated here. I'm attacking with my queen, rook, and bishop. So he played rook to D3, and I take, check. I skewer his king and queen. If he plays king E2, I take this with check. So he has to play king F3. I skewer him again, and then we trade queens. I take his rook, and I'm a pawn up in the endgame. Many years after this game, I saw him at a tournament in Vegas, and he said, "This was very disappointing. I should draw this endgame." And I said, "I don't think it's a draw. I think I should win. I have an extra pass B pawn." And the engine says I'm +1. So probably we would need, Magnus to opine on whether he thinks black should win or it should be a draw. I still think black should win. I have an extra pass B pawn. And in case things get dicey, I have the correct colored rook pawn for my bishop. Okay, and he tried to get in with his king, but I stopped him by putting my pawns on black squares. So So his king can't come in, and my bishop stops the white square. And he made a terrible blunder in this position. Or not this position. He traded. Yeah. Now the engine says I'm up 1.45, so probably winning. But here he made a very bad blunder. Obviously exhausted from calculating earlier, played bishop c4 check, letting my king walk in. I just win another pawn now. So that didn't make any sense. And now I have passed pawns on both sides of the board, so it's a very easy win. And he resigned here, I think. Yeah. Because I'm going to play h3, h2, bishop c6, QED. And so forth. His rating was like 2140, something like that. A better computer would be good. I want 50 cores, damn it. I'm guessing that endgame is winning. This endgame is winning. God damn. Anyway, that's one of my favorite games because I sort of accidentally sacrificed all my pieces, and the engine never said I was losing, which is weird. Usually when you blunder all your pieces, the engine says, man, you suck. But the engine said I barely suck because I was better back then. I was so good in the 90s that I could hang all of my pieces, and the engine said, okay, draw. Now I don't hang any pieces and I lose. Terrible. Did he become a GM? No, he became 2200. Such Sweet Thunder subscribed. Hooray. What computer did you have, a 93? I don't know, Fritz 5.32, I guess. Not even sure I had a computer 90. I guess I did. Yeah, I guess Fritz 5.32 was out. Not too good. Better than me. A Mac Classic. What should he do to come from 2200 to GM? I don't know. Cheat with an engine, I guess. The Trenton Mini Swiss. Wow. Yeah, if you're 2200 US Chess Federation rating and you want to be a grandmaster, by far the easiest way is to cheat. You might get caught, but it's still more likely that you would become a GM than if you did something else. That's your best chance. To cheat and don't get caught. So if I was your chess coach and you were like, how do I improve with the greatest of ease, I would say cheat. That's good coaching. Man, I'm already too tired to go through more games. But I have another 4 games. Okay, next. Next. Okay, this is the funniest game. This was at the 93 US Open in Philadelphia, which was at the same hotel, same city, same site as the World Open 1 month previous. So the World Open was in July at the Adams Mark Hotel in Philly, which is now a Target. And this was played in August, so the turnout was very bad because it's lower entry fees, less prizes. People played there the month before. So it wasn't a good turnout. This was my first or second round, and I was playing in 1900, so sort of an easy, And this is actually one of my best tournaments. I got 7 wins, a loss, and a draw. I tied for second. I lost to Joel Benjamin in 7 hours. I drew Kaidanov, who I was working with at the tournament, and I won my other 7 games. And this is the funniest game. Okay, so this game, as I told you before, I was playing knight f6, but I thought I played g6, but I did play knight f6. Okay, so this is the same deviled egg. Okay, and we just saw this position in my last game, and I was telling you most of my opponents play f4, and my opponent played f4. Okay, so you take on d4 and play queen a5, and I used to know a lot of theory. Until I didn't. And my opponent played king b1, which is, I think what Kaidanov played against me in the 1999 U.S. Championship. I played h6, which is okay. He took, which is not okay. Again, that's a lower-rated player type of move, like trade pieces. I mean, he should play bishop h4 or h4. Probably h4, but definitely not bishop f6. We're leaving all the pressure. Queen d2. And I played rook d8. The engine doesn't like that move. The engine says just take this and have a big advantage. Or a small advantage. Doesn't like rook d8. Knight d5. And I mean, I should definitely take the knight on c3 because knight d5 gives like the same endgame, but a much worse version for me. So I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I played rook d8. Okay, so we traded, and this ending should be a draw. But obviously I have to win. I can't draw the endgame. So if I have an equal ending against somebody, 600 points lower rated or 700, then I should win. Okay, and nothing much happened to change the evaluation of equality. The problem is, if it's too equal, then how do I win? I got to make something weird happen. Now the engine slightly prefers white. I'm not really getting any winning chances. Finally, I did something. He took, which the engine doesn't particularly like, but says it's okay. Again, we have this, white's slightly better, but it's a draw. Okay, and now I went sort of crazy, but the engine likes it. It says f5, good job. And then the obvious idea is d5, but d5 is a blunder. That's why I played f5, so I could play d5 and have two connected pass pawns in the center. And the engine says black has the better of this drawn rook and pawn endgame. Like it's a draw, but it slightly prefers black, but it's a draw. Obviously, I can't draw. Playing in the U.S. Open, I'm paired down 650 points. So I played d5, and now I'm lost. Plays rook c5, that's a good move. King d6 is a terrible move. He takes. e4. Bishop h5, put it in h. d4. So now there's 500 passed pawns. Anything could happen. And this is better than having a dead drawn position. Now, if I'm playing an engine, this is much worse than what was going on before, but I'm playing somebody lower rated that I have to beat, so I have to sort of go crazy. f6 is an excellent move. e3 check. King e1. And did I blunder here? I did. Yeah, I had to play bishop takes g2, and I'm barely lost. Close. Maybe even I'm drawing. But I played bishop d5, trying to stop his f-pawn. Played b4, which is a mistake. He should play king e2 and he's winning. But he let me play d3. I didn't play d3. After d3, I'm equal. Rook a7 is a mistake. Yeah. And after rook a7, the game's over. Except it wasn't over. So if I play d3, the engine says it's equal. Now there's 5 passed pawns, and it says rook c5 is the only equal move. Otherwise, I'm winning. So probably I would have won if I played d3, because I played a move that loses immediately, and I still won. Okay, I played rook a7. Does anybody in the chat see how the game ends? If white had played this move, I would have lost. I wouldn't have come back. I wouldn't have tricked him later. I would have just lost. Yeah, rook takes d5, king takes d5, f7, and this is why rook a7 is bad. Now if I play rook a8, he skewers me. And if I don't play rook a8, he queens. So I'm just dead. Dead. I didn't see rook takes bishop check, obviously. And after d3, he has to play rook c5 to be equal. It's just a very strange move. I don't see him playing that move. He could. Okay. So I played rook a7, double question mark. He played rook a5, which I expected. And we got to this end game where I'm down 2 pawns, but I'm better. And if he plays absolutely perfectly, maybe he can draw. Maybe. But I did a good job of taking an equal position with no winning chances and mixing it up. And unfortunately, I blundered before he did, and fortunately, he didn't see my blunder. So I did a good job of mixing the game up, then I got mixed up. Happens. The only move that doesn't lose immediately is king to d1. I actually see why. I was going to say, I don't know why. But if it's my move, then I play d2 check and bishop b3. Or I play bishop b3 and d2 check. So if he plays king d1 and I check, then he can go here. And then he can sacrifice, and he has two, and he could play king c3, and my pawn doesn't queen. Now he's got 50 passed pawns everywhere. And this is a draw with correct play, because the engine says so. But if he doesn't play king d1, I play bishop b3, I play d2 check, and it's over. And he played a6, which is a mistake. And now, did I play the right move? I have one winning move. Yeah, I played the one winning move. So now I'm threatening check, only legal move, bishop b3 check, and I queen. And he can't take it. Also, I'm going to get rid of this pawn if he does something about it. So he has to play king here again, which he did. And I took his pawn, getting rid of one of his scary pawns. And that doesn't do anything. That just lets my king stop it. King c1's a mistake. Bishop b5 is correct. I want to play bishop here and then d2. And I did. Hooray for Ben. This is actually pretty funny. He played g3. And he's actually in zugzwang here. He can't move, which is funny. If he plays bishop here, then I queen. If he plays bishop here or here, I take his advanced pawn. If he plays g4, he's blocking his bishop, so I queen. If he plays king here, I queen. So I just played bishop b3. And now it's his move. That's a pretty cool final move. I mean, he can't do anything. If he gives up his pawn by moving his bishop back and forth, I can just walk in and win. So after bishop b3, he resigned. So that was a pretty interesting game, especially since I had the one move where I just blundered, he could have won. And that was like my second best U.S. Open. I tied for first in the U.S. Open twice. This one I tied for second. This one was pretty strong. There were at least 10 grandmasters playing. I got a nice last round pairing. Go Papa John's. I don't watch other streams, so I don't know. Go Benjamin Bach. Benjamin's got to stick together. We're like that, son. All right, somebody make a marker for game 4. Bite-sized Kieran subscribed. It's like Karen, but it's Kieran. This has my favorite trick. This game is probably the most interesting and will be analyzed for centuries, except for one thing. It was interesting. It should be analyzed for centuries, but it won't be. Now, here are my opponents, about 2250. Dennis Seawald. This was played in Michigan in the mid-90s. And this was one of the craziest Sicilians I've ever played, and I played like my greatest trick. Tricks are for kids. Yeah, I played Dennis a few times. Okay, so Sicilian, obviously, frankly. Open Sicilian. And he played bishop c4. Nowadays, I play e6. But before I played e6, I played queen b6. I played queen b6 for like a couple of years. Then I switched to e6. And here, white can make any move. All moves are theory. And he played this move, which I wasn't familiar with. Knight de2. He wants to put his knight on g3 and attack on the king side. Okay, so far so good. So far so equal. He got rid of his two bishops. Messed up my pawns a little. I guess I could have taken with the bishop, but I was worried about knight h5. So the engine actually says white's better no matter what I do. Played a4, which I don't think is a good move at all. Yeah, the engine hates it. Rook e1. Rook g8. Knight f1. Here I considered queen d4 because it's cute. It's not good. The engine just says I should castle queenside or play queen c5. But I decided the center was good for my king, so I played rook c8. My king's pretty safe behind this, all these things here. I wanted my rooks on the open files. Knight e3 is a good move. Queen b4 is good. f4 is good. f5 is good. So he gives me the square for my knight, but he weakens my king's side by taking on e6. The engine says he should just play queen h5 here, threatening to take on e6, but not actually take on e6. It doesn't like that move. After queen h5, it says white's better. These are the kind of complicated Sicilian positions which will put you in time trouble. And boy, was he in time trouble at the end of the game. God damn, was he in time trouble. So he took and played queen h5 check. It's hard to resist. Now, the engine prefers knight f7, but my knight is too good on e5. I'm not moving that away. So I played king to d8. Again, my king is perfectly safe on d8. He played queen h3, attacking my pawn on e6. Not easy to defend. C'est pas facile. Now, in this position, I played the craziest move ever. But a crazier move is the engine move. The engine says knight to d3. Attacking his rook, attacking b2, which makes c3 loose. And if he takes, then I take this. And the engine's saying some crazy shit. The engine says bishop takes, sacrificing his queen. Knight f4, bishop d7, takes. And it says this is equal. Man, his knights have some really good squares. Man. I can't see any human playing this with white, just being down a queen for two knights. I didn't see knight d3. I know I didn't. In fact, I've never seen knight d3. This is the first time an engine's telling me knight d3. Okay, but I played the craziest move ever. If you're under 18, don't look at this move. You won't even believe it. First of all, half of you are like, your king's here, and you're telling me it's safe, and you don't believe me. I played d5, opening up the center, because his queen is on h3. So if he takes it and I take back, his queen's attacked. And I want to play d4, winning a piece. The engine says d5 is no good, and he has to take it. And he played king h1, which is the second best move. Now it says it's equal. d4, bishop takes e6, and this is how good I was in the 90s. Now I'm no good. In the 90s, see, I think most of you being born, that's what hurt me. When you guys weren't alive, I was pretty good. In this position, there's no way anybody would play the right move here with black, but I did play the right move. I was good in the 90s. Not good now. Now I would resign. I would just say, I can't figure this out, I resign. All the pieces are hanging. My king is no good. It's too complicated. But in the 90s, so I could take this knight, I could take this knight, I could take this bishop, but I played the only good move. I took a pawn. That's the only equalizing move, because I want to play rook takes c3, and then I win all of his pieces. He can't take my rook on g8 because his bishop's pinned. Now it says knight c d5 is equal, and that's the only move. It says otherwise I'm winning. He took, which is losing. I played the only move, rook takes c3. Now material's equal. It's exactly equal. He played the best move, queen e6. That's the engine move. I played the engine move, rook takes e3. He should play bishop b5 here. Bishop b5? It says I'm winning, but bishop b5 is best. There's a move nobody would ever consider because his bishop's hanging. He took the rook, and I did this. Now, when I played rook takes c3 a few moves ago, I set the greatest trap in chess history, and he fell for it. And he was in time trouble, and I was in time trouble. He was in more time trouble. When he made this move, he made it with a flourish, like, gotcha, bitch. That's what he was thinking. Now, he speaks Russian, so he was probably thinking suka bilet. Probably he was thinking that. And he played. Now, he is losing here. Doesn't matter what he does. Every move he makes, I'm winning. I have 2 pieces for a rook, and all my pieces are good. And he played rook e b1, and he thought the game was over. And if I don't play the winning move, the game is over. If I play an obvious random move like this, plays rook takes check and queen d5 mate, which is a cute mate. You have to give him, it's a cute mate. Now, I have a funny story about this position. I'm giving a lesson to an A player in Flint, Michigan, at his home. And I set up this position. And I said, what should black do? He looked for about 3 minutes and he said, I remember this. I was watching this with my friend, and we were like, man, Ben's going to lose. Then you played this move, and we were like, wow. But it took him several minutes to recognize it, so he knew what the answer was, because he remembers me playing it. Obviously and frankly. Yeah. And I saw this when I played rook c3, that this doesn't work, because I play rook a3. And if I don't play rook a3, I'm losing. Now I'm completely winning. And he was quite distraught because he thought he was winning. He didn't see rook a3. So he played rook b1, was thinking, gotcha, bitch. And then when the ambulance was called and they looked at me, I pointed to him. Call an ambulance, but not for me. That was the first example of that. Now he gave a spite check, another spite check, and then he resigned. And it says I'm plus 10. His rook's trapped on a1. He's losing his rook. That'll teach him to play king h1 and not get luffed. So that was one of my more exciting games, and that was a really good tournament. The The prizes were really good, and I tied for first, and I think I won $1,500, and that was in '94. That's like $8 million today. Delicious. Frankly. My king was perfectly safe. I just moved it on over. Slide it on over. Hooray for Ben. Man, he still had to make 11 moves to the time control. No wonder he resigned. His flag was falling too. Seawald's beaten me before. I think I beat him 3 times. Might even drawn once. Back in the day. Okay, and this is my favorite move. This is also in the 90s in a Sicilian. I've lectured on this several times. My game with Hummel from the New York Open, round 1. Open Sicilian. The same stuff we've been looking at. We just looked at this. My game was Seawald. Seawald played knight de2. Hummel played knight b3. And this is the point of queen b6. If they play the obvious knight b3, then their bishop can't go to b3. So why'd they play bishop c4? And you're losing a tempo. You're going to play queen here and go back. And then the bishop can't go back to b3. That's the whole point of queen b6. Bishop e3 is not very common, actually, in that position. Knight b5 is just a bad move. That's just silly. Very reminiscent of what Arganian did against me. Now, in this position, he should just go back to c3, and black is slightly better because his moves don't make any sense. That just says black is clearly better. But, you know, when you're a low-rated player and you play knight b5, and 2 moves later the guy plays a6, you feel sort of silly going back to c3. But that's not how you should play chess. You should play the best move. Knight c3 is the best move. If he plays knight c3, he's sort of acknowledging that knight b5 didn't make any sense. So he played knight d4, and these are the superfluous knights. Those are the knights that go knee. Knight e5. My knight's always on e5. Bishop e2. I got d5 in. Go Ben. Takes. Yay. Oh, give me the knights. 2 knight. So my knights are great. The pawn on f3 is silly. Black has a big advantage. And now he played this. And I played my greatest move ever, even though it's not necessarily the engine move. It depends what engine you have. For example, currently it's the engine move. Over the last 30 years, different engines have said this is the best, second, or third best move, the move that I played. It's definitely the most shocking. Stockfish 15 at depth 20 says this is the best move. That's good enough for me. I've shown this position a million trillion times, and I just realized that she's the one who shot Andy. That's right, Reservoir Dogs. Spelling of reservoir is not very good, but all right. You don't have to time him out for that. This is my most spectacular move. It's the least likely move that you would ever make. Exactly. Knight d3 check. I showed this to Uma Thurman, and she said, God damn. I said, God damn. My opponent played a move that you won't believe unless you've seen this before, because I've shown it so many times. Then you'll believe it. But if you've never seen this before, you won't believe what move he played. He played the move I expected. He played the engine move. King f1. Confusing the audience, which is you. You're confused. I'll let you guys look at it for a little bit. Try to figure out what the issues are. I'm always confused. Okay, so if he takes with the pawn, bishop b4 wins his queen. Previous to that, bishop b4 did not win his queen because he plays c3. But if he plays c takes d3, he doesn't have a c pawn. So then I win his queen. If he takes with the queen, he undefends his bishop on g5. Black has a monster advantage, dominating the dark squares. Never play f3. If he takes with the bishop, then my queen comes with great vengeance and furious anger. Queen e5 check. You were laughing at my queen on b8. I saw you laughing. Now who's laughing? And then I win the bishop on g5, and once again, black has a big advantage. So he played king f1, and I play knight f4, and he can't castle anymore, and I can, and I got rid of his e-pawn. My knights are better than his. Black has a big advantage. Played g3, which isn't very good. And here he made a very bad move, king g2. King's bad on g2 because it lines up with my bishop and it weakens e3. Okay, now he blundered. Here, he's close to losing, strategically incredibly bad for white. But he blundered with queen d6. And in this position, I did something silly. Knight f5 is very strong. Knight d5 is very strong. They're equally strong. And I chose one because it had a little trap. I chose knight f5, hoping beyond hope he would take on b6, so I win his queen. Obviously, if I play knight d5, he's not going to take on b6. Knight d5 is more accurate, and the idea is if he takes my queen, which he could also do after knight f5, I throw in this check. He doesn't have a good answer to that check. If he plays king here, I take his rook with check. If he moves his king here, which is the engine move, now bishop f3 is a threat, knight takes d1 is a threat, knight takes c2 is a threat, so I'm completely winning. But I played knight f5. He saw that if he took his queen, my queen, I'd play knight here check, which actually he should do. It turns out that's better for him than what he did. He played queen back to d2. Now he regrets, well, queen d6 is ridiculous. Now he regrets king g2 because I have queen e5 threatening the pawn and threatening knight e3 check. He stopped knight e3 check. I took a pawn. And this is a position I show a lot of my students when I was teaching. Should black trade queens or not trade queens? Now, if you've read chess books or been coached by a bad coach, which you have, they tell you to trade when you're ahead, which is wrong. But that's what all the books and coaches have told you. So you blindly follow it. Then you go vote for Trump. Then you go vote for Kerry Lake. Then you go give money to the Republican National Committee. That's what you do. You do stuff that's wrong. Okay? Then you get your white sheet on and go to your rally. Start burning crosses. That's what you do. Okay? But if you're a good chess player, you trade queens depending on whose king is safer. Obviously and frankly, my king is safer. I want the queens on the board because I want to punish that king. So I play queen a3. Any engine will tell you queen a3 is far superior than trading queens. Exactly, ace deuce. Now you're talking. Okay, knight d4. Traded knights. He took with the pawn. His pawns are bad anyway, but now, man, nice bishop. Okay, now this is actually quite funny. When I played the move rook a c8, I expected him to blunder because he played the obvious move, which loses to a not so obvious reason. And I said, oh, if he plays the obvious move, that loses. Now, he's already losing. I have an extra pawn. I have a better pawn structure. I have a better minor piece. I have a safer king. I'm higher rated. I stack paper to the ceiling. I drive on 24-inch chrome, right? I got more rebounds than him, blocked more shots. And he blundered with rook c1 because, it's the kind of reaction rook c8, rook c1. And even though his rook has defended 500 times, when I take it, he can't take back without losing material. You don't expect the guy to give the file away, and especially when you have 3 ways to capture, you figure one of them will be good, but they're all bad. If he takes with the knight, I win this f-pawn over here. God damn. If he takes with the rook, I get another pawn, 2 connected pass pawns ahead. So he took with the queen, and I take the a-pawn. Hooray! And he played knight d2, trying to trap my queen, because he was in check. Now, if it's his move, which it's not, he can play rook a1, and my queen's trapped. Also, maybe he'll take on b6. I'd still be winning then, but so I stop both of them with the move queen a5. Now he can't win my queen. He can't win my b pawn. He's down 2 connected pass pawns. Bad pawn structure, exposed king, beautiful bishop. The engine says I'm +4, and he resigned here. That's one of my favorite games. Somebody ban ace deuce, but not really. But at least time him out for like 4 seconds. That way he knows he did something wrong. 10 seconds, that's a crazy punishment. I said 4 seconds. That was too harsh. I hope he's back by now. Exactly, ace deuce. Yay, Perrier. What am I coming in 2 weeks? 16 plus 14 is 30. I am coming in 2 weeks. Damn. Go Perrier. Okay, and last but not least, this game was played in California, I believe, against Guillermo Gonzalez Ruiz. With so many names, it's hard to beat him. This was played in 1999. 999. No, anything but snow. Okay. So somebody wants to do a marker. Thank you, Tensor Extension. Sicilian, the same deviled egg. And these were my E6 days. Now, I was on a plane to California for a tournament in like 1990. Was it in 99? Yeah, it was actually this tournament. It was for this tournament. I'm on a plane to California, and I have a book in descriptive notation on the Sozin, which I'm reading from the 70s. And I open the book up for no reason to a page, and I think there's a typo in the diagram. But it turned out it wasn't a typo. The last move that was made didn't make any sense to me. In that tournament that I was flying to, we got that position. Okay, and it's this position. And I thought the diagram would have this position, and the diagram had this position, and I thought the diagram was just wrong. And then I looked, and it said queen to king 1. That was the last move that black played. And I said, excuse me? And ever since I've read that, and I've played it, I'm like 6 out of 6 with it. I've had this position 5 or 6 times, and I've won every game. Now, the normal move is queen c7. The point of queen e8 is to defend the knight so we can play b5, get off of this file. And when they play h5 and g6, your queen is defending over here. With the queen on c7, obviously, isn't defending the king side. And this move was invented by Alexander Belyavsky around 1972, 1973. So this was played in 1999. Everybody forgot the move by then, but I just learned it. So I was like, man, I'm going to play that move. And I got to play it in my first tournament after I read the book and saw this position. It was just one page in a book. I happened to open it to that page, and that changed my chess career. I've played this several times, and I've won every game, including this one. I think this was my first. He played rook g1, which is the main move. We played the main line somehow. This is the main line. Queen is still the main line. The engine likes black a lot. Now, this is the other reason to play queen e8 instead of queen c7, is your queen's defending a4. So sometimes you can win a piece over here because your queen's defending, your knight's defending. Now, in this position, the engine does play knight a4. Wow. I guess after the piece sacrifice, white has some kind of mating attack. So after this, it says black is slightly better. But he played knight e2, the more human move. Takes. I think he took the wrong way. Oh, no, the engine likes a takes b. I don't like a takes b, but the engine does. Knight takes d4. Knight takes d4. g6, attacking his queen. The engine doesn't like that. Queen h6. e5, the engine likes that. Now it wants him to play h4 and sack a piece. But he retreated his knight. The engine says, boo, boo. And it says black is close to winning if I had played a5, a4. After this move, he has a brilliant move which equalizes. He has to play knight f4. Obviously, if I let him play knight d5, it's going to be good for him. Then he plays bishop here, threatening mate. And this is a forced draw, it says. Bishop takes f6, loses. I have to play rook takes f6. Takes, 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 takes. Rook takes. And he's down two pieces here, and this is a draw by perpetual. And this is also a draw. Rook g1. Threatening queen takes bishop and queen g6 mate. Bishop g7. And this is a draw. And if bishop h6, he mates me. So I can't do that. So obviously you can see we didn't play accurately because we weren't cheating. Okay, he didn't find knight f4 because nobody would. He played f3. Never play f3. Now it says I'm completely winning. Bishop e6. He played knight d4. Knight d4 is actually the best move. Now, this is how good I was in the 90s. Is I played the best move here. I would never play the best move here now. I would probably resign. I played queen d7. That's the engine move. F takes is the engine move, and now he's just lost. He has no attack at all. Queen h3 is the engine move. Huh? Here I come. And I break through on the queen's side. He has no king side attack. So he ran away. Setting up for the next game and preparing to castle. Yay, b3. b3 was a good move. It says he should resign here, but he played c takes b3. Thanks, Thaddeus, for the 5 subs. Queen c3 is the best move. I played the second best move. I mean, he's finished here. He played king f2, and I take. Always sack the exchange. Except here it's not really an exchange sack. because I'm going to play bishop takes g5 and bishop takes d2 next move. And he resigned here. The engine says I'm plus 10. That was the first time he playing queen to e8, or as the book said, queen to king 1. I have a lot of other nice games where I've played queen e8 and won also. Some of them suspicious. You know, I did lose a game with queen. Oh no, did I play queen e8 or was before that? I lost a game in this variation to Sam Sevian, and that was the tournament where he became a grandmaster. I probably shouldn't have played an open Sicilian with black against Sam Sevian. That's probably a bad idea. I didn't do it again. The next time I played him, I played the Philidor, and I drew. Anyway, those are some of my Sicilian games in the 90s when I was a better player than I am now. I hope the stream isn't over now that all 4 games are covered. That was 6 games. Did you fall asleep for a couple of games? In the 70s, queen e8 was all the rage, but in 1999 it was forgotten. Go Meatless. Hey, the Hawks are going to beat the Celtics tonight, and the Celtics are favorites in Atlanta. Bad bookmaking. The Hawks aren't going to lose in Atlanta to the Celtics, especially when it's a nationally televised game. It's on ESPN. They're going to be on their best behavior. Go Hawks. Man, we just crushed Milwaukee in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's lost 3 games this season, 2 to the Hawks. God damn. One of the games we beat Milwaukee, Trae Young didn't play. He was injured. And we beat him without him. God damn. Go queen sacks. Are queen sacks more common in some openings? No. Queen sacks are pretty rare. Go Giannis. Wait, that's the wrong team. Herder's doing pretty well in Sacramento. That's working out pretty well for him. He was a good bench player for us. But our team is better than it was last year. And 2 years ago, went to the Eastern Conference Finals. You're banned for putting a game in. Although I like Rook CC 333, G takes F5, because there's a lot of threes there. Man, the Thursday night football games, for the most part, are just bad games. The offense is bad. The teams are bad. They should feel bad. Typically, I think there was one good game this year. The other games were terrible. Yeah, and sometimes the feed doesn't work and Amazon Prime craps out. Terrible. But I still watch the games. Got to do something. It is date night after all. Yeah, I want to see that movie with what's her name. I couldn't think of her name earlier, and Karen told me right before the stream, and I can't remember her name again. Yay, the name Daniel Lowe versus Loesch is rating me with a party of 47. Complicated. Playing Age of Empires 3. Hooray. By the way, today on Twitter, they asked, well, it was put on Twitter. It wasn't on Twitter, but Luka Doncic was interviewed and asked if he was following the Twitter controversy. And he says, no, I just use my phone to play chess online. That's what he said. So Luka Doncic is probably watching this now. Yeah, what's her name? Just a second. I'll tell you her name. Her name is What's her name? I'll tell you her name. Yeah, I can convince Karen to see that. Kate Blanchett. She's in the movie Tar, which I wanted to see. I don't think Karen's heard of it, but it got good reviews. 92% on tomatoes. Go tomatoes. Hope those tomatoes are vegan. I can't remember Kate Blanchett's name ever. There's too many Kates. There's Kate Winslet. Is spaghetti vegan? Depends. If it's vegan, yes. If it's not vegan, no. I shudder at the thought of non-vegan tomatoes. What about tobacco? Things are vegan when they're vegan. When they're not vegan, then they're not. Spaghetti is 50-50. The spaghetti you buy from the store is vegan. At a restaurant, it's unclear. You have to ask them. Go tobacco. Tortellini aren't vegan, so I should be banned. Doesn't pasta have egg? If it has egg. As I said, if it's vegan, it's vegan. If it's not, it's not. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's not always one or the other. Anyway, you guys have learned important things today. I'm just not sure what they are, but they were important. Anyway, I hope you like the new streaming setup where I'm slightly more serious and we're doing some game analysis. We'll do some opening analysis, stuff like that. And if you don't like it, too bad. Homemade pasta will have egg, unless it doesn't. Very suspicious. All right, let's see. Who do I raid? Let's see. I guess we'll raid Botez Live because they raided us. Thanks for supporting the channel, everybody. Without your support, we cannot go on.